I played baseball and basketball growing up. I played all sports outside. How old are you?
28.
Okay, so I'm 32. We're in the same age bracket. So
Yeah.
grew up in the time when you could actually play outside and not come home until it's late and all that.
Like, yeah.
So I didn't get any coaching until I was about 12. We had a super poor family, so four kids. We didn't. We each had to take a turn playing a sport or doing an activity. So I didn't really get into organized sports till 12. And when I did, I just like burst on the scene because I had been playing with 16, 15-year-olds when I was like 10. And, they don't go easy on you. If you want to play, you got to be able to hang. So I felt in a lot of ways I was ahead of the game. And then, things level out as you get coaching and then as people get better. So about my junior year, I was kind of a standout. And then senior year, I got a scholarship offer to Mississippi Valley State, and I took it because I wanted to get out of my house. I wanted to get away from my parents.
Where are you from originally?
Ventura, California.
Okay.
So yeah, right by, an hour north of LA. And so I took it, and it was an eye-opening experience for good ways and for bad ways. I mean, the South is about the last place I ever want to be.
Yeah.
But it was really good experience. So I don't know your faith background at all, if you have one, but I always thought that I had God first in my life, and then I got injured in Mississippi, and so I tore my labrum, couldn't play, so I was worthless to my teammates. My coaching staff didn't talk to me anymore, and I was like, wow, this is the first time that I really feel alone in the world, and I realized that sport had become my identity. It wasn't what I did, it was who I was, right? And so one of the first things I talk to my athletes about, so I do sports psychology consulting just to kind of give you a framework, is teaching them about their identity. That sport is what you do, it's not who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And because so much, as you know, of your self-worth, your self-identity, when it's wrapped up in sport, when you're on top of the world, you're invincible. When you mess up or when you have a bad game, it's like you're just a piece of crap.
Yeah.
So out there, I learned that, like, man, all right, God, this is what a relationship with you is like. Let's get after this together. So a lot of people, my faith background is a little bit different than other people. Most Christians will be like, God, why did this happen? What are you trying to teach me? And that's just not what it is. I wasn't in the shape that I need to be in. I got injured, just like most other athletes in their career. So I just said, God, let's get after this together. You're the ultimate doctor, heal me, and then we're getting after it. And so I moved back home after surgery, and then went to a junior college for a year, played baseball. After a year of redshirting to heal up, and then chased a girl up to Idaho, and played baseball up there for 2 years, and then wasn't good enough to get drafted out of college, and had every opportunity because I know the right people, I know good agencies, and I just wasn't good enough, and it sucked. But it led me then to question, okay, what could I have done different, right? I felt like I was way ahead of the curve, and then by the end I was way behind the curve. And so it was really the mental game, because I didn't have the discipline, and not the mental game like self-talk and all that, like we can get into, but it's more like just like the discipline of having a daily routine and like understanding what it takes to get to the top level, like the extra stuff that you have to put in that no one else is doing or willing to do, the stuff that you can't be doing that everyone else is doing that you have to be willing not to do. I didn't grasp that stuff. I didn't have, a mentor. And my dad played pro ball, played AAA, and I just didn't listen to my parents. And that's the reason I have a job now, is because kids don't want to listen to their parents. They want somebody else who's been there or has some credibility. So that led me to go into Boise State for my master's degree. So tell me about you.
Yeah.
And just direction, anything, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you say that you didn't grasp the putting in the extra work until later, whereas that was the first thing that really drove me, because my first sport was soccer, and I was really good at soccer without really trying all that hard. I was just bigger than everybody and had a big leg. And so the first time I played in a organized basketball game in 5th grade, there was this kid who was so good, and it blew me away that someone was so much better than me at something.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when my dad told me, he was like, hey man, like you have to put in work to be good. Like he's not better than you, he just put in more time at it. And
Right.
so from soccer, I got into playing basketball, and like my dream was to play in the NBA or at least play college basketball and be like really tall, 6'10", and that just didn't happen. But I started playing football my freshman year in high school, and it was easy. I didn't really like it that much, but it was kind of just easy. And then I got my first scholarship offer my junior year, and then that's when it really clicked, like, okay, I need to like pay attention to this. I need to give this all my attention. And so I played out my senior year, went to University of Miami, and that's where I really experienced like the ups and downs of like, okay, this is like real deal. Because my freshman year, with the coaches that recruited me, I shined. I was playing really well, and then at the end of that season, they got fired. And so not only did a new coaching staff come in, but I had to have labrum surgery my freshman year. So like these new coaches are coming in that winter, spring semester, and I'm not able to play or really show what I could do. And so it was like kind of trying to like build up like confidence again. Because like once I was like healthy enough at the end of the summer, going into like training camp, going into the season, like they were not showing me any love. And it was like such a drastic difference between like being considered like a star the year before. And so I really had to like go back to like, all right, I have to just put in a bunch of work. So that next off season, going into winter, when we had our winter break, I just worked my ass off. And so going back in the next year, it was a noticeable difference. They were playing me a little more, but I was not getting any sort of like, I wasn't getting any like recognition. I didn't even really feel like respected by the coaches. It was so much of like, I didn't feel the worth that I thought I had. And so I realized that, man, like if I'm gonna play, then I just need to figure out a new way to get on the field. Because my freshman year, I was catching a lot of passes and I didn't really block that much. I was a tight end. And so going into my senior year, it was just like, I got to do whatever I got to do to like try to make it to the NFL. So I really focused on blocking, and because we had a tight end that we were already throwing the ball to a lot. And so I felt that I could add value by being an effective blocker. And with that, they would always need to have me on the field, because if we're going to run the ball, we need someone to block. If we're going to throw the ball deep, we need someone to block. And so that transition helped me play in the NFL. I went undrafted to the 49ers. So that's when I was living out in San Jose. I was out by San Pedro Square. Yeah. And then my second year, I got traded to the Patriots.
Can I pause there and go back to something real quick?
Yeah.
So when you decided, wow, I need to start blocking, is that like an unselfish thing where other people just like ask you that I'm not going to be a big blocker? Like why that, and why didn't other people in your position think to go do that?
Well, I was able to do it because, so we had someone who was like catching a lot of passes, and then the other tight ends that we had weren't good were like okay athletes. They also weren't like smart. Like I was someone who like I could pick up
football IQ.
Yeah, exactly. So like I was someone who like you could move me around and I would still know what I had to do. So that was like an edge that I had. And then blocking, it is a very unselfish thing, but it's 100% an effort thing. That if you're willing to go out there and just throw your face into somebody who's bigger than you, stronger than you, and you could do your best to like hold up for like 2 or 3 seconds, then you're a good blocker.
Right.
So with that, it was more so just like I'm gonna do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And so that shift in mindset of I had to like really let my ego down.
Sure.
Because that's what I think was probably the biggest thing that held me back those 2 years with the new coaching staff, is that I still had the ego of like, they don't know what I can do. And so it was just shifting into like, all right, let me do what they need me to do.
Sure. Absolutely. And so like when I think of what you just said was 3 seconds of effort got you to the NFL, right? I mean, 3 seconds of blocking is what became your bread and butter, to where it got you on the field and it got you to the NFL. Because if you didn't let the ego down and you're just like, no, it's my way or the highway, you probably wouldn't have got anything. Yeah. That's great. Awesome. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just...
No worries. No, I appreciate it.
Yeah. So you were on the 49ers, and then...
Yeah,
and then
49ers, and then going into my second season, after we played a preseason game where I did pretty well, had 3 catches, and then the very next work day, I got a knock on my door, and one of the trainer or the scouts was saying like, hey, when you go to the facility, go to the coach's office, you're being traded. Like, they didn't tell me where I was going. And so when I get there, I find out that I'm going to the Patriots. And
what year is this?
This was 2015.
Gotcha.
So going to New England, I think, was the best thing that happened, because I saw what it looks like, what football looks like when it's done right. When it was a complete meritocracy, in that there was no politics on how much we're paying this dude, where this dude was drafted. It was just the best player is going to play. The person who gives effort and is accountable is going to play. And that was my whole thing. Like, I was smart. I knew what everybody had to do, and I was going to give my best effort. So
how tough is it to go from one system to another system? All right, is it kind of all X's and O's? I mean, was it a drastic change?
It's a drastic change, because like the verbiage is different, because a lot of systems are branches off of family trees. So the West Coast offense family tree, the language is going to be pretty much the same for all the coaches that run that kind of offense. Now, I was going from a West Coast offense to the New England style offense, where every single bit of verbiage was different. Like, the plays and concepts, like, they have similar concepts, but the way things were called was different. Where, like in New England, we would have one word plays. We would have one word that would give you the formation, the protection, and the play. And so that's what was beneficial, in that it also mattered. You had to know which personnel you were in, because if they called this one, if we called Godzilla, you had to know that since you're the F, you're over on this side and you have to run the side. So I thrived there because of how my ability to like grasp the concepts. And I started to see some success there. I was playing, I got my first catch, I got my first start. And then on Christmas, coach cut me to put me so I was on the active roster. So he cut me to re-sign me to the practice squad. But that Monday, before I could re-sign to the practice squad, I got claimed off waivers, and then I was going to the Chargers the very next day.
Wow.
And so I was going from, at that time, we were the best team, the Patriots were the best team in the league, and the Chargers were the worst team in the league.
Wow.
And I saw just the complete drastic shift in organization. There were just like the habits of successful teams, of championship teams, are very different than the habits of at that time, a 4-5 11 team.
Right.
And so,
Did your game go down? So I'll give you a quick example. I was at the D1 level, had D1 expectations, and then when I went to the NAIA level, I got worse as a player. I think part of it was the coaching staff. They didn't invest any time in me. I didn't really see them as having any value that could add to my game. And then, I mean, on top of that is when I started actually partying. So it
mhm.
was in Mississippi, never took a drink in junior college, and got up here and or got up to Idaho, and that changed. But did you see your game? Did you allow your game to change based on the environment you were in?
So my game didn't get better. So the way I was like kind of caught in like no man's land on the roster. So I wasn't, so going into that next season with the Chargers, I was the fourth tight end and I was on active roster. So with that, in practice, I'm not really taking any reps with the ones. And then I'm also not taking the practice squad reps because we had a practice squad tight end also. So I would get like a couple reps of practice. So I just wasn't getting better. And then I also wasn't suiting up on game day. So I was just, for a year, I was just kind of in no man's land. And so going into my second season with the Chargers, I obviously am determined to be like playing and making a difference on the field. And then the first week of training camp, I tear my meniscus. And then, so I have my meniscus repaired instead of taken out. So I'm on IR for the whole year. And I'm training to, like, my goal is to come back and be the best blocking tight end in the league. And so that whole offseason goes through, I'm getting as strong as I've ever been. And then the Patriots call me to like re-sign me in the offseason. And so when I go out there, I take all the MRIs, talk to the coaches, and they say that like my knee isn't repaired, so like they're not going to sign me. So that was kind of like my, like, all right, well, this is the beginning of the end. Yeah. And then, so from there, it was a kind of a journey of figuring out what I wanted to do next, and then realizing that like I have a story that I haven't really told or talked about, but also I want to be able to be a resource to guys who, like, kids who want to play at the next level, because I know what it takes. Like I had to do a lot to like really get in the like national attention as a recruit in high school. But then also to be able to help guys who are transitioning out of the league.